Okay, so I'm Claire. I'm going to show you my work here. Heidi said you were fashion students.
Well, mostly we've got second year, first year BA, we've got second year FDA, and we've got some photography BA students.
All right. So you've no foundation students?
No, they're all doing presentations at the moment.
Okay. And no fashion students?
No.
Oh, there was me kind of smart, particularly smart when I got dressed this morning. Right, and I put quite a few slightly fashion-related things in, but hopefully they'll be of interest to everybody. So this first one's case in point. So today I'm wearing clothes from kind of, I think it's Hong Kong, Bangladesh, China, of course. I think my jumper is I translated the, it doesn't say where it's from, but I translated the, I Google translated the label and it's in Norwegian and Danish, but I don't know if that means it was made there. So, in deciding what I was going to wear to impress you guys today, I chose these clothes, but the other side of that is these, they're just a set of choices and they come from, they've been made somewhere else in the world. Although we kind of know that some information that they're made in poor places and there's different levels of kind of conditions of work, there's a lot we don't know about it. And I sort of put that against this kind of strange thing that here I am presenting the clearness of it and then these things that were made in places I don't understand about or under conditions I don't understand. So, this notion of my identity being some arbitrary, strange thing. So, in response to these kind of incoherent thoughts, when I went to Hong Kong here, I went through my clothes and sorted out things that came from Hong Kong, and as I kind of stepped over the border, I did it in the clothes that came from that place as a sort of way of thinking about these things. And that sort of became the thing I did. So here I'm going to Bangladesh. I've done a whole series of performances around the world in different places, so this has kind of come naturally on the back of this. And in Portugal, because I think manufacture shifted from Portugal, I could only find one very old washed out t-shirt that I tend to sleep in, because you don't get so many modern things from Portugal at the moment. Italy and Brazil. So more about Brazil later. So thinking about jobs, another thing I was thinking about was that the notion of skill within a job, and in particular the fact that some skills are much more kind of valued or honoured, have a different kind of status than others. So, and also that perhaps these are, as those skills become old-fashioned or less mainstream, then they kind of move up and become sort of a middle-class occupation. So something like blacksmithing, which was like fixing a car in the days when horses were your mode of transport, or what you call it, thatching, is more likely to be done, or is thought of, I should say, there's sort of more, there's a hierarchy of skills maybe. So something like a carpet fitter, which is arguably as skilled as the ones I've just mentioned, or a nail technician, is thought of in a very different way. And so, here's my nail bar. And these, by the way, I should say, are false nails that I've painted up to look like workers' nails. So you've got the bruise, the splits, the dirt under the fingernails of manual work. And here is my nail bar. And what I wanted to do was actually have a piece of work that was to do with conversations. So I made objects, I made the nails, but really they sort of pass between us as a sort of mode of setting off conversations and thoughts. And because it takes time to fit nails, then you've got like and it's one-to-one, you've got sort of intimate situation created in which you can talk about these things. So I got a whole series of conversations and different attitudes and understandings of skills, and the work was not particularly about putting forward a point of view, but more about exchanging ideas around a topic. So after that, I trained up as a makeup artist. I worked with Abby Grace, who's a film and TV makeup artist. And this is Leeds Market for the unit we had, because she ended up joining me actually this study in Leeds Market. And again, I could show you the before and after pictures of the makeup, but that wouldn't really represent the project so well, because it's more to do with the thinking and opinion swapping and conversations that are part of this, again, a slow process in which you can get a space to talk. So I've got a conversation I had with somebody, one of the students in fact, who went to this, and we had a conversation afterwards, and I'm going to just play you a bit of it because it's quite long. And you'll hopefully understand the project a bit from the conversation. So what do you kind of expect when you can you hear that?
I wasn't expecting to look at all as it is.
Can you hear that?
So quiet.
I should have tested out the sound. It's coming from here, not from the speakers.
Would you like to go get a technician?
Yeah, I need a cable for the sound.
Okay.
Sorry. Thanks.
No worries.
So what I'll do is I'll go on to the next piece and then come back to that. Okay, so there's a kind of story behind this work. A very long time ago, in a pub, I was offered a job by a man. I don't know if it was a real job, because I never took it any further. But he was a kind of junk antique dealer, and he wanted me to paint figures in existing landscape paintings, so not very valuable, but oldish, oil paintings of landscapes. He wanted me to put a person in them, because apparently they're much more valuable if they're a person. You could get more for it. So, I was kind of curious about this idea of the landscape, and the landscape is something you stand outside in a way. You know, the notion of a landscape. You look at the landscape from the top of a hill, or you stand back and look at the landscape. The landscape's not a sort of a jumble of brambles and that you catch your feet in. It's the word suggests a picture and a sort of detachment, and sort of standing back and looking at the whole thing rather than kind of being in it. And I was kind of interested in that idea, particularly in the observation that children don't look at the landscape like that. They don't stand back. They don't look at architecture. They look at where they are. And of course, animals don't. So I wanted to make something to temporarily shift that, sort of playfully shift that. So I don't know if you can see what these are, but they're the next one should. So this is rats. This is rabbits. This is Canada geese, and this is foxes, and this is porcupine. And it was actually made for a festival in Italy, and I hadn't made a porcupine, and I made a Canada geese, and then I discovered actually they don't have Canada geese in Italy, because they just wear on their roots. But they do have porcupines, which we don't. So the porcupines are very good. And so the idea is that it's almost like a treasure hunt. You know they're there and you're looking for them, which actually affects the way that you're moving around. Obviously you can't, and animals are kind of sort of quivering mass of focus, on they're either looking for something that's going to kill them or something they can eat. So they kind of the sort of intensity of looking that an animal has would be different from this detachment. And I'm not proposing that we can get there, but I'm proposing we could just play at shifting this focus. And the other aspect of it was that because people knew they were there and were hunting for them, when they found them, they could take them. And I like the idea of them. I don't know if you know, if you put an old jacket on you haven't put on for a while, and you put your hands in your pocket and discover something by touch. So this idea that you would kind of linger and be experienced in this different way.
What are they made from?
Yes, I should have said do shout out, by the way. They're just made from clay, and we've got a spray booth at work. So the first picture here is that's where I actually sprayed them, which is why their background's gold as well.
What are they meant to be?
They're the animal shit. Sorry, I thought.
I thought that, but I'm a different.
No, because foxes have actually quite a lot of kind of matter in it. They eat animals whole, small animals whole, so there's all the kind of bones and fur and stuff in it as well. So obviously I studied the subject a little in order to reproduce the stuff.
Yeah. Are they cast?
No.
No. So they just...
Well, I mean, these are extruded, sort of, forced through something. These are kind of rolled into little balls, and then, because rabbit chutes, inside the rabbits are pressed together, so then pressed, so because they...
See, I thought they were accurate enough to be cast in as clay, and then you paint them.
A lot of work though, isn't it?
How well was this piece received?
Unfortunately, I was going to Brazil and I had to put it in a box and send it off. So I don't know. And also, if something's done on these lots of personal experiences, it's very difficult for you to know how your work's understood. It's a really interesting question. And in fact, this thing I'm hoping to play to you is kind of where I've had a discussion with the guy who recorded it, is a sort of an attempt to understand how the work worked, if only for the one person. So I think people's experiences are really different. And if you put an exhibition on, you get your mates come up and tell you it's lovely. And the people who don't like it go away and tell their mates so you don't. Yeah, it's really... is this something you're interested in yourself, in terms of how work's understood?
From a conceptual angle, yes.
Yeah.
Because without measuring the gauge of accuracy in terms of how people have responded to it, it's hard to measure whether they've interpreted it from the same angle or something completely different.
Yeah. See, like the two ones that involved dialogue, it was the fact that there were many different angles and ways of looking at those two topics that was kind of interesting to me anyway. So, but when you make a piece of work, and particularly when you post it out into the world, you don't know. You really don't know. But a lot of the work I'm going to show you next is really that it's collaborative work where I'm working with somebody else and kind of where each other's prime audience in a kind of way.
What interests you about making condensation? Because you're not doing actual artwork, you're face to face.
Yeah.
Doing the makeup.
There's quite a lot of artists who make work without coming up with objects, and I do love objects. You know, I haven't turned my back on them forever. I work in lots of different ways. But there is quite a lot of artists who make kind of socially engaged work, or work that's to do with organising things between people. But personally, I wouldn't want to work that way always because I do. Well, even the like the making that was involved in that has been part of the interest. So, what did you kind of expect when you went to the first meeting?
I wasn't expecting to look as old as I did. Because obviously, with not wearing my glasses while I'm making it, I didn't get to see it in the process, so it was quite a shock to suddenly see myself looking 50 years old.
And when you say it's a shock? How did it feel?
It wasn't a sort of negative shock, it was just the surprise of not knowing. When you see something happen in the process, you sort of expect it, or you have. It's not as much of a all-in-one blow.
You face it bit by bit rather than
Yeah.
having the same.
It eases in rather than it all being one
I mean,
experience.
I obviously because I've been outside of the breast, I saw the countries to be made up. And I think this kind of, sometimes when I'm being brave, do you know what I mean? It's like, you really don't like it, you don't want to admit it, can you? Or you feel you should be able to deal with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, when you were making me up, there was a lot of people sort of looking and asking what was going on. The minute you said making you up to look older, a lot of people sort of stepped back and went, whoa, no, I can't do that.
Particularly older people, actually.
Really?
Just in the way, older people much more for older people. I think it's my wonder that maybe there's this thing to, if you are shocked by something, if you really don't like it, to pretend that
You can't really hear that, can you?
No.
No.
It's a shock in the sense that it's not just a surprise.
So anyway, he's been made up to look older, and then he actually walks around the town as an older person, and it's to do with that kind of shifted experience of the way that the way you perceive yourself, and the experience of actually the way other people behave differently towards you if they think you're a different age. So that's one of them.
Was he a public? Someone from the public or someone who worked on the piece with you?
He was actually a student, one of the students at the place where I teach, but he came in as one of the members of the public, but then I could easily nab him afterwards because I knew where he was if he settled me to have a conversation. It wasn't something we'd arranged beforehand, and I didn't know he was going to come. He came because he was interested. It was part of a kind of bigger arts festival, but because it was these market, the people we got were a really wide range of people.
Sorry, could you explain what the reaction was that he got then? What was the conclusion it was?
It wasn't a conclusion.
No.
It's kind of, it's interesting to use that word because it's kind of an open project where I'm kind of trying to understand the field. And so this particular person had the experience of being made up to look older, and then he chose to walk, not everyone did, to walk around like that, and he went to his landlord and he went around the town. And so he had a sort of a pretend experience, if you like, or sort of half experience of actually being older, but also the experience of the difference between your appearance being different from how you feel, and having to experience that. And so I got to see a whole lot of people looking old and then talking through their reactions and their understanding to that they did it. So it was a range of experiences. But the reason I didn't want to show the before after faces was because it would just look like some kind of cheesy look how scary you're going to look when you're old thing. It's more to do with sort of contemplating. This is Patricia Azevedo, who's Brazilian. And she's not having a fit. We do a lot of work together on Skype because she's in Brazil and I'm in the UK for most of the time. So we kind of see Skype as sort of almost like a tunnel between us, a space on which we work. So, and Skype, people use Skype? Yeah. Because it's really weird, isn't it? Like the camera, what you see isn't quite what the camera takes, where you look isn't where you seem to be looking. You'll be talking away, you're suddenly freezing and your voice will go on talking. So, and it's really crude and clunky, but we can use all those aspects of it. So,
are you going to use the sound more?
I am.
All right.
Yeah. Hopefully you can hear it. So, is there just one speaker here?
I don't know, it's just that it's very noisy.
Yeah, but it seems to just come in.
I'm just trying to drop that transformer off the table because I just wonder if it's that, but it seems fairly okay. It's not.
That sounds a bit quieter to me.
Does it?
Yeah, it is. So in this particular instance, I'm back in Leeds, she's in Brazil, and we, between us, are trying to fit her body into the shape of the frame. We're doing quite a lot of work about the frame of the sky, if you like. But she can't see what she's doing, and she's in this ridiculous position. I'm saying, left foot up a little, no, etc. So we're directing each other, and this is something that we've done quite a lot. So we've got a whole series of photographs of me and her going to these kind of ridiculous contortions in order to fit into the other one's frame. And as you probably know, you can video, as well as photograph and Skype, you can video it, and you can video with like your two halves, so her camera and my camera together. So we've done quite a lot of works where we've made videos like that. But of course, it's not till the end that we know what they look like. You don't really have that much control over what's happening. You can see the other person out this big, but if you're doing stuff in front of the screen, you can't really done well. So this is one of many little videos we've done, like scores and scores of them.
To make a call with Skype, you go to the Skype icon down here, give it a click, and you have a list of names. The ones in green are currently online, the ones in grey are currently offline. Let's go back to the top. I'm going to call this person Linda, so I can right click there and call. You can see I can either call her Skype channel, which is her computer, or her mobile phone. I'm going to call her on Skype, so click on that. You hear it dialing, and it's ringing, and she will answer the phone, hopefully.
Hello.
Hello, Miss Linda, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Chris. How are you?
That's good, that's good. I'm just demonstrating how wonderful Skype is. I see, and you've just turned your video on, and there you are. Let me turn my video on by clicking this little button here, and there's my video there. So you can see me in the corner there.
Excellent.
Myself up there. And that's as simple as that. And you can see me okay?
I can see you perfectly, and I can hear you fine, too.
There you go. So wonderful technology. And you're in Toronto?
I am. Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
And I'm in Sydney, so 15,000 kilometres away. And this call is costing us how much?
Nothing. Canadian, nothing Australian.
So that's a pretty good deal. By the way, let me just show people here, if you resize these windows, you can see you can make these windows as big or as small as you like. So it's a pretty useful technology. Thank you for helping me demonstrate it.
You're more than welcome.
No worries, I'll just hang up, and thanks very much. Bye.
Bye for now.
Okay, so it's on one level it's like a little dialogue between two sheets of paper. It's kind of using them as like puppets in relationship to each other. On another level, it's kind of giving you glimpses through into my personal spaces. This work is kind of like YouTube work. It's like the kind of thing people put up on YouTube, in that it's crude and short, but unlike things in YouTube, it asks you to look and hang with it a bit and be prepared to be bored and have a bit of a thing. It's not kind of, doesn't work just by being kind of fast and funny, although you can see there are elements in that as well. Another.
Okay, 1, 2.
That's really cool. Did you work out how we did it?
Two people at the side.
Yeah, you throw it in the camera thing and just kind of knocking it and catching it all the time. And of course we both got, it turns out we both got office chairs with wheels in, which kind of is quite interesting that it's kind of a universal thing to have an office chair with a wheel in your room, so that's good. It provides a motion. Right, now I talked about a sort of tunnel between us, but we've also done things where we kind of we try and put our 2 rooms so that it makes a single room. We try and arrange our cameras and our rooms with great difficulty and not 100% conviction that it's a single room. So in this one, you'll see at the end, it might possibly be some notes that we're working on. So as I was trying to explain before, the man control we've got of the image is very slender. So the fact that at moments we get those 2 bits of plastic happen to look together like it could almost be a thing is something that's actually taken us days to get there. So as well as kind of doing this kind of pretend passing physical things between us, which we did with the with the pro paper and various other works, we actually do it for real in that we actually send things by post. So this is Patricia about to open an envelope with me watching on Skype, and here's one of the things we sent. So here, these are kind of balls of soft clay. This one is from Brazil, and this one's from the UK. So if you think of clay as kind of earth or ground or something quite fundamental about the place you're from. So I'm sending them to her, as separate balls, but during the course of the journey, they get reformed by the journey, so they get kind of squashed together or splatted or all kinds of different shapes, and because they're also affected by the other things travelling along with them, so they'll get marks or corners of parts and things like that. So we have a whole series of these like tokens of this journey between us, if you like. And this is I haven't included it, I thought I had. We've also done this with 2 ceramic figures in a box. So, again, a Brazilian one and a UK one. So during the course of the journey, they smash each other. And because the box is wood, it's a seal box, you can tell get a sense of the sort of physicality of these 2 things, or this mass of things as it is now, by sliding it about and hearing the different sounds and the tinkle of the little bits and the kind of scuffs and slide of the bigger particles. You see some Brazilian confetti here, which is they have eco confetti up there, the biodegradable confetti, and they use it for the carnival. They don't use it like we do. But in this case, Patricia sent me the pack with just a little hole in it, so during the course of the journey, there's a tiny kind of pack, if you like, of confetti that's been spread out between the 2 places. And it really does, because I've got this packet at home, and I found a bit in the bath yesterday, which is kind of somehow, without even noticing, it kind of disseminates. Right, so we do get to work together in real life sometimes. We've worked here for about 5 years, and every year we've had about a month together. And this piece is one that we made together. Interestingly, it still has this kind of dual thing too. And we've been working for several days with water and trying to make something with water in all kinds of different places, and it's going really badly. And we were getting frustrated, and then the wind caught one of the empty water bottles, and then the other one, and we made this little video.
So, I told you about how we started to make this video. It was next to a building site, so it was really, really noisy. And although with your ears you could focus on the delicate sound of the bottles made with their rubbing, scuffing and banging and scattering, we recorded it, we just got machinery. And we were never going to be able to reproduce that wind in that particular place that was blowing like it was. So all the sound was artificially put on afterwards. So we then went to another place, we were pushing it around, we had a broom with a recorder on the end of it, we were running around, and then every single sound's been transferred on carefully. And also the background sound of the city, so it doesn't sound, it's so subtle you won't notice it, but it doesn't sound like it's in a vacuum, it sounds like it's in a real place. So, although a lot of the work is very, very simple, sometimes you have to work really, really hard to be simple. And sometimes the kind of crudity works for you and you use it, but other points you just have to get it right. So this really simple video is maybe, if you count all the frustration of the situation I described where we're trying to make something completely awful out of water, it was a week's worth of hard work to make this 2-minute video. But the simplicity of it, or the ostensible simplicity of it, is quite important in the work itself. I'm just going to play you the very first little bit, so if you listen to the sound, you realise how complex it is and how difficult it was to move all those separate sounds up and down to look convincing with to sound convincing with the visuals. Are there any questions? This is the video made in her workplace and my workplace. And if you remember the first one I showed you, the full block where you had these two spaces that were being opened up by the piece of paper when you saw through into it. And you've got this kind of combination of something that's quite kind of abstracted and then the real life kind of entering in moments in this video is at the edges. There's the kind of same concerns taken from online stuff to a real life video. Again, the sound is destructive.
they're not dissimilar to that one we wanted at the paper.
Did you say that you added the sounds to that later? And also, were you talking to each other and sort of
well, actually,
conversing on what you were both doing?
No, what happened was, and this is quite kind of typical, is like we spent like a couple of afternoons in her place filming the her lifts. And we wanted that time, so we're filming people and all kinds of things, and then we kind of restricted it back since. And then once we made those decisions, when I came back to the UK and we got, I knew how to, what the proportions were in the camera and everything like that, I just did mine. And then, but the sounds are from the real doors, but it's really heavily edited because obviously we wanted some kind of rhythm and dialogue between the two doors, so we could do that by editing on basically. And then the sound has to be edited into that. But they're the sounds of those two doors.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a wine you combine both countries, and back to that kind of theme that's kind of bubbling through about kind of a lack of physicality in a way. We never can touch, we never can do anything for real in a real space. We've got this fictional space that we work in. But also we've got, in terms of the objects that we sent between us, there was we've also done wet clay packages that we don't open so you experience them by touch, or as I said, the wooden blocks that you experience by sound. So we thought we'd drink the same wine together at the same moment on Skype, and we'd be experiencing the same taste as each other. So we made a video of it, which we haven't used. And we make a lot of videos that we don't use. We have a sort of a pile that we call interesting experiments, and a pile we call actual pieces of work. And the interesting experiments is the bigger of the two piles. And also, if there's two of you, then, and both of you have a beta, then that means you get a lot less work, kind of, that you both agree is a piece of work, if you like. But then if the two of you have twice as many ideas as well, so that's both ways. So this is us. This is just a record, it's not a piece of work. It's a record of us. It's the end of the bottle. And I must say also, because we're on her time zone, it was really late at night for me.
So you drank a whole bottle of wine each? Or was it
Well, actually, we didn't quite get. I didn't quite get to the bottom of the bottle. That was the intention.
That's a sort of a perverse revealing of yourself.
Well, you haven't seen the video, have you? Yes. But it's a lot of fun working with somebody like this. Maybe that bit comes across. And so this is the last one I'm going to show you. We're tending to smoke a cigarette together. So it's as if we pass a cigarette between us. But as you'll see, there's very, very little visual information in it, because we do it in the dark. And you took a lot of packets of cigarettes to do this, and I don't smoke. But it has a kind of, to me, it has a very different atmosphere from the piece I've just shown you. It actually feels quite eerie and intimate. Let's see what you think. Oh, hang on, maybe. Did I turn the lights off? Finally, I would start this one now. But if you want to, there's lots of, well, quite a lot of the other work up there. So what do you think? Bill, what did you like best?
It's an enormous amount of work to get the specialists of that, you know, at the exact point.
Yeah, they're really crude, aren't they?
It must have taken hours.
She did the editing, that's the really, like trying to all the stuff, and that one she did the editing. We also do this thing where we call news, where we just get like newspaper, like we did it yesterday, we get that day's newspaper and we put up pictures from that news, and then you've got the dialogue between the two pictures. And that you have hours of that, and if you trawl through, you find some really wonderful moments, funny things. So that's, yeah, the editing becomes. But editing, do any of you make videos?
We will be doing that sometime.
Really good fun, really powerful when you start editing. And working with sounds works really interesting. You listen, you watch films and listen to life really differently.
How did you me? Sorry, I probably missed that.
Oh no, I didn't say. I mentioned it briefly. I've done, before the work I've shown you, I did a series of performances around the world, working with other people in their countries, because I've always been interested in kind of cultural ignorance, or putting myself in a position where I have to kind of think anything might happen. And I found by far the best way was people would come up to me and I'd say, oh, you should work with so-and-so, with this and so-and-so. They'd be really interested in your ideas. And so I just got to meet some really interesting people just through that other people's enthusiasms and recommendations. And somebody said this about Patricia, but by the time I met her, their kind of project was over. But I still really liked her and wanted to work with her. So we got some funding, just really good funding moment. We got some funding to go to work together and her to come here. And then we got some more to work together in Brazil. And we kind of snowballed from there. And now it's kind of, we have a regular day every week where Tuesday we like nothing else happens, we always work together on a Tuesday. And then at other points we might do our editing separately, but we spend the whole of Tuesday together on Skype. Quite nice, sometimes you're doing different things, but like next person's got Skype open next to you kind of thing. But mostly we're doing these kind of playing in space, playing pictures.
When you did you sent the gold to Brazil, was that to her?
No, this was a project. Nothing to do with her, it was strictly I happened to be going to Brazil at the time, so I couldn't go to I was literally flying out there. So I couldn't go to that exhibition, so I don't know how.
Were you not interested in
Yeah.
The reaction.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but it wasn't possible to kind of arrange that.
Quite often you can't afford to go to where your places shown, you know, unfortunately. But I mean, that was the great thing about doing performance, because you were actually there. You were hearing the arguments afterwards.
Yeah.
Do you have any of the performance stuff videos? Online to see?
If you look online, there's all those collaborative ones. There's excerpts from them. It's called, the project's called Speech.
Speech.
Any other questions? Are these videos still ongoing?
Yeah.
How long have you been doing it for?
We've only been doing the videos for about a year and a half. Yeah.
Did you have influence from or did you think of just doing that videos instead? Or did you see that other artists do it and you thought that was a good way to both collaborate together?
I've been, being an artist, you're influenced all the time by things. But you don't know where an idea comes from. It came from a conversation, maybe. It's kind of the obvious way to work together if you're in two different countries in a way.
I've never seen it. It's clever.
Yeah.
You can do artwork through Skype.
It's just Patricia does a lot of work using kind of other technologies. She's done a lot of poster works, and we have done pamphlet works and things like that. So using what's there is kind of it costs nothing. Physical stuff.
Were you trained originally in anything specific?
I did my BA in fine art and my MA in sculpture, and I do have a big affection for stuff, getting my hands dirty. So there's a level of frustration or kind of it's active, I think, in the way we work together without this possibility of physicality. I think that kind of feedback.
Makes it a little bit more interesting, the fact that she isn't actually in the UK. I mean, if it was somebody sat in another room, it would be completely different.
Yeah, you'd have chosen to, rather than circumstances, wouldn't you? Yeah. Yeah, and also with the postal thing, it's the thing that goes across national borders, and I'm not really sure if you're allowed to send wet claims, so I take it to lots of different post offices. And then when she sent the confetti, the woman in the post office sealed it up because they saw the hole. So it was kind of like, it's a sort of little bit of kind of doing it surreptitiously, so trying to make the system work for us, across there. But then there's the other side of using something of main screen, Skype.